Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Wednesday, hump day, as we head towards the weekend. Got a lot to cover today. A massive immigration enforcement operation. Another one, I told you about the one this past weekend of the Hyundai plant in Georgia. Well, this one's in southeast Texas, netting over 800 illegal immigrants, including gang members, convicted murderers, child predators, and foreign fugitives. We have all the details in today's show. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt blasted media yesterday for their slow response in covering the fatal stabbing of Ukrainian refugee Iryna Zarutska in Charlotte. We have more as this story continues to grow. 3 young women in Southern California are filing a lawsuit against the California Interscholastic Federation, the California Department of Education, and the Jurupa Unified School District over the inclusion of a biological male transgender athlete on the Jurupa Valley High School girls volleyball team. This is the only way to stop this madness. Good for them. And Freedom Farm Fest is this Saturday. Hope you're planning to come join us at my farm in Greer. Mike Gallagher joins us in today's show to talk about the event this weekend and the craziness of what's happening in Charlotte.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
All right, this story out of Texas tells you everything you need to know about why America needed Donald Trump back in the White House. And why strong border enforcement isn't just about politics, it's about life and death, safety and chaos, order and lawlessness. So here's the story. And again, we talked about the large bust at the Hyundai plant just last week in Houston and across southeast Texas. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement just wrapped up the largest enforcement operation of Trump's second term so far. They keep breaking their own record. The numbers are just staggering. 822 illegal aliens arrested in a week. Now, again, we're not talking about random folks just looking for a better life. We're talking about the worst of the worst, and that's what President Trump has promised, although the media wants you to think that he's grabbing up families and separating them and sending them back to Mexico or South America or wherever. In this case, they documented some of the bad apples that they were able to pick out. For example, according to ICE, among those arrested were 5 transnational gang members, 7 convicted child predators, 3 criminals convicted of homicide-related offenses. And here's another part of this story you need to know. 330 of them had already been ordered removed from the U.S. Many had been deported before and came back. 112 were previously deported and illegally re-entered at least once. One man, get this, has been deported 12 times. 12 times. And he keeps coming back. His name is Alejandro Perez Miramontes. He's a 54-year-old Mexican national, convicted 8 times for illegal reentry, 4 times for illegal entry, twice for robbery, twice for larceny, twice for burglary. And still, somehow, he managed to keep sneaking back across the border. Now, think about how many lives were put in danger every time he came back to our country. Think about how many opportunities the system had to protect us from him, and they failed. That's what an open border does, folks. It creates a revolving door for career criminals, and who pays the price? You do. Your family does. Law-abiding citizens pay with their safety, sometimes with their lives. And then there are the monsters like the ones that ICE calls the habitual child predators. One of them, William Alexander Tellez Amaya, 35-year-old Salvadoran national, has been convicted 3 times for child sex crimes. 3 times, including aggravated sexual assault of a child. Another, Francisco Eduardo Bonillo, 37, convicted just this past February in Harris County, Texas, for sexually abusing a child. And another one, Jorge Torres Soto, a 30-year-old from Guatemala, convicted in October 2024, sexually assaulting a child. Another, Manuel Estrada, 36, a Mexican national, convicted of sexually assaulting a minor, arrested again. You see the pattern here? These are the kinds of people who were allowed across our border under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris multiple times. And make no mistake, the Biden years were a disaster. This is showing it. These are the poster childs of Joe Biden's open border. ICE acting director Gabriel Martinez said it plainly. Quote, during the past 4 years, transnational gang members, foreign fugitives, and other violent criminal aliens took advantage of the crisis at our southern border to illegally enter the country. And let's not forget the gangs. An MS-13 member from El Salvador was arrested during this operation, convicted of robbery and armed carjacking. Another man, Hermindo Asino Marino, like my Spanish there? Mr. Marino, 53, is wanted in El Salvador for aggravated homicide. Guess where he came from? Guess where he came to hide? America. He slipped across our border in 2022 to escape prosecution. Folks, again, this is what we're dealing with. Not just illegal immigration, but imported crime, imported gangs, imported predators, imported killers, and they're coming here for safety. They're coming here to avoid prosecution in their home countries, and Joe Biden just opened the doors and let them come in. So let's zoom out a bit. Under Joe Biden, the illegal immigrant population in this country soared to an all-time high. Millions crossed the border. Unchecked, unvetted, untracked. Border Patrol agents were overwhelmed. ICE was handcuffed. Sanctuary cities rolled out the welcome mat for these criminals. As a result, American communities were flooded with these criminals. But under Donald Trump's second term, the policy has shifted very quickly. This administration is now laser focused on restoring public safety by targeting what they call the worst of the worst, and we're seeing this. Already, ICE has deported nearly 200,000 people in just over 6 months of the Trump 2.0. This is the fastest pace in a decade. Think about that. For the first time in years, we are actually enforcing the law at the border. And you're seeing a difference in Washington, D.C. After President Trump declared a crime emergency, brought in the federal troops and agents, violent crime has dropped just in a matter of weeks, 45%. Carjackings dropped 87%. I mean, that in itself proves that if you enforce the law, if you put men and women in badges out on the street to do their jobs, let them do their jobs, it makes a difference. Now, you might be listening here thinking, well, that's Houston, that's Texas, that's not Greenville, South Carolina, that's not Spartanburg, South Carolina, that's not Anderson or Lawrence or Greenwood. Wrong, because when criminals cross the southern border, they don't stay in Texas. They scatter. They move into communities like ours. They end up working in jobs under the table, slipping into neighborhoods, committing crimes in places that never expected to face the problem. Every state is a border state. We know that now. Every community is at risk when Washington refuses to enforce immigration law. And remember, in this sweep alone, ICE found a convicted murderer, multiple convicted child rapists, repeat drunk drivers, including one man convicted of intoxication manslaughter. Do you want these people living in your neighborhood? Do you want them walking your kids' school routes? No, I don't think you do. Here's the sad part. Democrats will still criticize the operation. You'll hear activists say ICE is terrorizing immigrant communities. You'll hear talking heads on CNN say these arrests are inhumane. Let's be clear here. This is only one operation in one region in 1 week. Imagine how many more are out there still unaccounted for, still walking free because of years of failed policies. I say turn ICE loose, give them the tools they need, let them do their job. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. We continue to see stories across the country about young men wanting to play in girl sports. There's a group of girls in California who say enough is enough. 3 young women, high school girls, are suing their school district, the California Department of Education, and the California Interscholastic Federation. Why? Because their girls' volleyball team includes a biological male transgender athlete, and these girls say they've had enough. The lawsuit was filed this week in federal court. These girls, backed by their families, claim this situation has created a hostile, unsafe, and unfair environment for female athletes, and they're right. They're saying they've been sexually harassed, silenced, and even pushed off their team group chat just for voicing concerns. Imagine that. Girls being punished for saying they feel uncomfortable sharing a locker room with a biological male. Back in my day, that young guy would have been arrested. He'd have been expelled from school for being in the girls' locker room. You just didn't do that type of thing, and you shouldn't be doing it today. One of the plaintiffs, Hadil Hazamuth, is a Muslim. She follows her faith's strict modesty rules. Another, Alyssa McPherson, is Catholic and says her religious beliefs are being trampled by the school's policies. Both say they've had to walk away from their team just to stand up for their beliefs. Now, that's just wrong. That's just heartbreaking. And let me say this, loud and clear. This isn't about hate. It's about fairness. It's about these young girls' safety. It's about religious freedom. These girls didn't start the fight. They just want to play sports like every other teenage girl without being forced to compete against or change in front of a male. It's just that simple. And it should be just that common sense. The adults in the room should be taking care of this, but they aren't. They are not. They're turning their heads. They're letting this happen. Now, here's where it gets more insane. This athlete, A.B. Hernandez, isn't just on the volleyball team. They also won 2 state championships last year in girls track and field. This young man made the news then. Think about that. State titles in girls events taken by a biological male. And what did the CIF do? They let it happen. In fact, they gave out runner-up medals to the girls who placed behind Hernandez like it was some kind of consolation prize. Now, folks, 4 schools have already forfeited volleyball games this season rather than play against Jurupa Valley. This isn't a fringe issue anymore. This is hitting real teams, real families, real high schools, girls who just want a level playing field. And here's what really makes your blood boil. When the girls spoke up, they were booted from the team chat, silenced, censored, bullied by adults, by the way, by the very system that's supposed to protect them. The school district says, and I quote, "Don't blame us, blame the state." Well, that's weak. These districts are more afraid of Sacramento than they are betraying their own students. That's why we're dealing. That's what we're dealing with here. And you know what? Most Californians agree with these girls. A bipartisan poll just found that 65% of adults and over 70% of public school parents say trans athletes should compete based on biological sex. That includes Democrats, Republicans, independents. Regular folks are waking up. And here's the question. Will this lawsuit change anything? Will it finally force California's leaders and maybe the country to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough like these young ladies are doing? Because, again, this isn't just about volleyball. It's about whether truth, fairness, freedom still matter in America, common sense, or whether we've gone so far down the road of political correctness that we're willing to sacrifice our daughters on the altar of ideology. That's the question here. I think you know where I stand. News out of New York and Washington. Our first son, Barron Trump, is now residing at the White House while he attends classes at New York University's campus in the nation's capital, according to the New York Post. The first son is 19 years old. He spent his freshman year as a prominent presence at NYU's flagship Greenwich Village campus in New York City. He'll continue his studies closer to his parents now, though. NYU's D.C. campus accepts up to 120 students each semester, with courses meant for those pursuing careers in politics, public policy, history, economics, and journalism. Barron Trump had spent his freshman year living in Trump Tower in Manhattan while commuting to Washington Square. He sometimes flies to Palm Beach, Florida, to be with his dad at Mar-a-Lago. He President Trump first teased his youngest son's college choice in an interview with the Post back in August of last year. And Barron was soon attending classes at NYU. He said at the time, he's a little on the tall side. I'll tell you, he's a tall one, but he's a good-looking guy, and he really has been a great student, and he does like politics. It's sort of funny, the president said. Barron's move to D.C. comes as his mom, Melania, has taken a key role in the second Trump term. Have you noticed that the First Lady is more active this time than she was during the first Trump administration? She has spearheaded the passage of anti-revenge porn legislation. She's been right there beside the president in diplomatic talks, where she attended talks with Russia, trying to help the president with the Russian-Ukraine war. Ms. Trump traveled with the president on his first trip as the 47th Commander-in-Chief, visiting victims affected by Hurricane Helene here in the Carolinas last year. Back in the spring, she unveiled a postage stamp honoring Barbara Bush at the White House and is leading a school AI initiative that calls on students to submit their best idea to harness the technology. She's been involved in a lot of other White House events too. So, look, it's got to be nice, I would say, for the president and the first lady to have Barron there in the White House with them. All right, the U.S. Supreme Court has officially agreed to hear arguments this November on whether President Trump can use the his emergency powers for the emergency tariffs. You know, the ones aimed at protecting American jobs, leveling the playing field. The Supreme Court will decide whether they're constitutional or not, as some of the lower courts have ruled that they are not. So let's break this down. President Trump's been using the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, a tool that past presidents barely touched, to declare national emergencies over things like fentanyl smuggling and even America's trade deficit. Why? Because China and other nations have been ripping us off for decades, and someone finally stood up and said, enough. Here's what happened. President Trump imposed tariffs on foreign goods. Guess what? It worked. As of July, the U.S. brought in $122 billion in revenue from those tariffs. That's not chump change, even in with a budget like we have. That's money that could be going towards rebuilding our infrastructure, cutting the debt, and putting America first. But now a bunch of Democrat state attorneys general from states like Oregon, Minnesota, Colorado, New Mexico, and a group of boutique business owners are crying foul. They say Trump abused his power, that the tariffs weren't really about a national emergency. I mean, come on. Has anyone taken a look at the border lately? Or our trade imbalance with China? A U.S. appeals court sided with these business owners and Democrats. They say Trump's move was unprecedented. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point, isn't it? No one had the guts to take on globalism until Trump showed up. Now it's up to the Supreme Court, the same court that's recently backed Trump on immigration enforcement and foreign aid control, to make the final call. And get this, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned that if the courts does not act quickly, the government may have to pay back that tariff revenue. Now, think about that for a minute. The Treasury Secretary says it would be catastrophic for the economy. The $122 billion that could just vanish in an instant, all to please foreign exporters and the globalist crowd. This is the moment of truth, folks. Do we let unelected judges and leftist attorneys, attorney generals, tie the hands of a president trying to defend American workers? Or do we finally say, yes, the president has the authority to act when foreign powers threaten our economy? We'll find out in November, but you better believe this will be a landmark decision, and it won't just affect Trump. It'll shape how every future president handles economic threats from abroad. What do you think about this? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. And always use promo code Joey when you go to mypillow.com. You'll get the very best price that Mike Lindell has to offer. Promo code Joey at mypillow.com. Well, folks, the Democrat mayor of Charlotte easily won her primary yesterday. She had 4 opponents, and of course, she's been in the headlines these past few days because of the horrific attack and murder of the Ukrainian refugee. But what some thought might be a close race wasn't even close. She easily won by like 70% on the first ballot. If you've ever wondered, too, why trust in the mainstream media is at rock bottom, just look at the coverage of this story out of Charlotte. Just look at the mainstream media's coverage of the brutal murder of the 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee, Iryna Zarutska. This young woman came to America in 2022. She escaped the war in Ukraine. She thought she'd found safety, new opportunity, new freedom. According to her friends, she worked hard, she lived quietly, she contributed to her new community. And then one ordinary night on her way home from her job at a pizza restaurant, she was stabbed to death in a random, senseless attack by a man who never should have been free in the first place. And it's captured the headlines across the country. The accused killer, 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown, had been arrested at least 14 times over the years for everything from assault to armed robbery to larceny. He served time in prison at one point. He had a documented history of mental illness. His own mother said that he was schizophrenic and was too dangerous to be out on the streets. But thanks to the soft on crime policies of liberal judges and cashless bail, he was on the streets, right up until the moment he butchered an innocent young woman who had already seen enough horror in her lifetime. And the mayor and city council in Charlotte, they never even mentioned her initially. They didn't want to talk about the story. They wanted to talk about the fact that, well, we need to do better treating the mental illness, as if he was actually the victim. This brutal killer was the victim because he had mental illness that had not been treated. And this is where the story takes a turn, because if you flipped through the networks like CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, in the days after this young woman's murder, you probably wouldn't even have known about the story. The story went viral on social media because of the surveillance video of the attack on the train. You could see this young, beautiful woman, her smiling face plastered all over GoFundMe pages and community members grieving of the loss. The legacy media, though, crickets. This story grew because of the social media coverage of it. It wasn't until conservatives really just jumped on the story and started trickling out the details that it finally started hitting some of the national networks. And that's when White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt took the media to task this week, yesterday, in one of the most fiery press briefings we've seen in years. Leavitt didn't mince words. Here she is.
This monster should have been locked up, and Iryna should still be alive. But Democrat politicians, liberal judges, and weak prosecutors would rather virtue signal than lock up criminals and protect their communities. And perhaps most shamefully of all, the majority of the media, many outlets in this room, decided that her murder was not worth reporting on originally because it does not fit a preferred narrative. Many of the journalists in this room spilled plenty of ink trying to smear Daniel Penny for defending a subway car from a deranged lunatic in New York City, but none of those same reporters lift a finger to write stories about an actual murderer. Here's the truth that every American must know. Too many innocent people across the country continue to pay the price of the failed experiment known as cashless bail that has been championed by the Democrat Party for years.
And she's right, isn't she? Everything she said is right. It is madness. This monster should have been locked up, and this young lady should still be alive. But Democrat politicians, just like she said, the liberal judges, the weak prosecutors would rather virtue signal. If the suspect in this case had been a white male wearing a MAGA hat, what do you think the response would have been? We'd have wall-to-wall coverage. CNN would be camped out in Charlotte. If the victim had been someone who fit neatly into the left's identity politics, the New York Times would have run a front-page story on it. But because the suspect is a homeless career criminal, because the story highlights the failures of Democrat policies like cashless bail, the media shrugged and just looked the other way, just ignored it. Leavitt compared this case to the infamous Daniel Penny incident in New York City. Remember that? Penny, a Marine veteran, restrained Jordan Neely, a violent, mentally ill homeless man who was terrorizing passengers on a subway car. Neely died in the struggle, and Penny was charged with manslaughter. The media couldn't get enough of the story. They painted Penny as a villain, a vigilante, a cold-hearted killer. They marked out Neely's farm on every network. They framed it as proof of systemic injustice. But now we have actual footage of a career criminal plunging a knife into the throat of a defenseless young woman. And suddenly the same media outlets have said nothing. Crickets. No primetime panels, no angry op-eds, no celebrity hashtags, just silence. And Karoline Leavitt called them out. Let's talk about the policies that made this tragedy possible. DeCarlos Brown wasn't just unlucky or misunderstood. He was a known danger. He had a documented history of violence and schizophrenia. Earlier this year, he was arrested for making bizarre 911 calls. And instead of being held or treated, he was released on a written promise to appear back in court. Folks, that's not justice. That's simply just insanity. And it's exactly what Democrats across this country are pushing under the label of criminal justice reform. Cashless bail, reduce sentences, decriminalize offenses, all in the name of equity. And the result? Well, we saw the result in Charlotte. Innocent people are slaughtered on trains, on buses, on city streets. And people in the Charlotte area don't feel safe to travel on their own public transportation. It's got to stop. And maybe now, with the coverage of this story, it will. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. We have a big event coming up. It's this Saturday, kicking off at 6 o'clock over at the little Hudson farm, and one of our special guests, Mike Gallagher. Mr. Gallagher, how are you, sir?
Little Hudson Farm. Look, this is so exciting that the world is going to get to see the estate, the compound. The Kennedys had Chappaquiddick. The Hudsons have Hudson Farm. The Bushes have Kennebunkport. The Hudsons have Hudson Farm. And the world is going to get to see how blessed we all are to get to. And this is your family home, right?
It is, absolutely. My grandparents live there, and I spent a lot of time there growing up as a kid. And so when my grandparents passed on, Peg and I had the opportunity to take over the family farm, and we did so. So it's very peaceful there.
It is very peaceful. It's a slice of heaven. You've made a couple of tiny little modifications since your grandparents had it. You've threw up a couple of, layers of paint.
Yes.
You wallpapered one of the bathrooms. You modernized one of the sinks. So let's just say there's been an extensive makeover. It really is a beautiful, beautiful setting. And I know a lot of people use the setting, use your farm for weddings and different events. Our dear friend, we've had weddings right there on the property, and so yes. I have a lot. And I have a lot of happy memories at Hudson Farm. So to hang out with some of our friends and colleagues Saturday night is going to be a big, big deal. And what do people have to look forward to who are going to come out and join us, Joey?
Well, we're going to have a great group of people there, of course, a lot of WORD listeners, just going to have a lot of fun. But we're going to have music. We're going to have some great barbecue. And of course, now there's been a request that that they've heard you talk about being there, and there's been a request of whether or not you can drive a tractor. And I told him, sure, Gallagher can drive a tractor. Gallagher can do anything. So I've got a little bush hogging that I need to be done. So I've just kind of waited. I've got the tractor ready with the bush hog connected, and they want to see Mike Gallagher do a little farm labor. So you think we can pull that off?
I'll be like the Eddie Albert from Green Acres. I'm the guy, but only I'm like Eva Gabor. I'm the wife that doesn't want to live on the farm, doing manual labor. I'll drive that thing right into the side of the barn. I don't know how to. Are you kidding me? I've never driven a tractor in my life. I mean, that'll be a catastrophe.
I'll get you out in the middle of the field, away from the barn. So
please don't put me near people or objects.
Yes.
But I'm willing to give it a try. You give me a big old straw hat and a weed to chew on and some boots, and I'm out. What the heck? I'm up for anything. But no, it's going to be great, and I'm excited about getting to talk about a lot of the issues that are making headlines. And look, tragically, just north of us in Charlotte, comes this story of this Ukrainian refugee, this beautiful young woman. And Joey, do you just shake your head in amazement that the Democrats continually go to the wrong side of the law and order debate in America? How hard is it for Democrats to be on the side of less crime, not more? But they keep going instinctively to side with the bad guys and the criminals.
It's just crazy, Mike. And it's one thing to read about something like this in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles. But when it starts getting so close to home,
right.
In Charlotte, I mean, you can hear 98.9 WRD there in Charlotte. When it gets that close to home, you're just thinking things like this don't happen down in the Southeast, but they do. And now you have people in the Charlotte area who say they're fearful of even riding public transportation.
Look, you've got a Democrat mayor, you got a Democrat governor. I mean, this is the dirty little secret about even in the Southeast. You're just not safe from these crazy policies, which include no cash bail. And it turned out this guy was out on a cashless bail procedure. He had an arrest record as long as your arm. He had 14 arrests. His mugshot was like the mosaic of an entire wall of his mugshots over the years.
Yes.
He was a bad guy. His own mother didn't want him out on the streets. And yet the Charlotte government, the system insisted on letting him roam the streets freely. And, for many people, Joey, her murder was so harrowing to see him casually open up his pocket knife. You saw the whole thing and saw him planning it, and then just lunging and towering over her before he plunged the knife into her throat. She escapes Ukraine. She manages to evade, losing her life in Ukraine, only to get killed on a light rail train in Charlotte, North Carolina. Look, this is and the left is angry at us for pointing it out. They're mad that the video got released. They're mad that, that people are making race to be a part of this. And incidentally, race appears to be very much a part of this. It was revealed yesterday. He was caught on tape saying, "I got that white girl. I got that white girl."
Yep.
Now, okay, so now, but they're claiming that the Charlie Kirks and the Joey Hudsons and the Mike Gallaghers of the world are racializing this story because it was black on white crime. You got a black guy who slits the throat of a young white woman on a train, and he says, "I got that white girl." What are we supposed to say?
I think there's a racial component there,
Boy, it seems like there's a racial component to me. But Brian Stelter last night, he on CNN, he's like, the racism is everywhere, and I mean, it's awful. And this mayor of Charlotte is on the hot seat right now. So look, it's one of the many issues we're going to kick around at the big event Saturday night on Hudson Farm. How do you get tickets again, Mr. Hudson?
It's real simple. You can text the keyword farm to the MyPillow text line, 800-655-MIKE, 800-655-6453. You can go to the WORD website, that's 989WORD.com, or just email me directly, joey@joeyhudson.com, and I'll be sure and get you the info. But we'd love to have you. There's still a few tickets left, and you're going to get some good barbecue. Again, some great fellowship with like-minded conservatives, and of course, and as I said the other day, this is kind of an old-style stump rally.
Yeah.
We're going to have some politicians, some people who are in office currently, people who are running for office there, and you're going to have a chance to ask questions. And, of course, Mr. Gallagher, you'll be speaking as well.
Well, and I may or may not ride a tractor. So,
yes.
Stay tuned for that. I will tell you, just a spoiler alert, don't hold your breath, because, look, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to be put in harm's way. But we are going to have a lot of fun. We'll see you Saturday night, 6 p.m. at the Hudson Farm.
Text FARM to 800-655-MIKE. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code JOEY. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.